Here I'll show you how to create an initial geometry for the wing design project. And this is the initial geometry you'll end up with. There is the skin of the wing. So that's part of the skin, that's another part, and so on. There is the spar. So that's one part of the spar. In this case, there's only one spar, and in your design, you may want to use more than one spar and also play around with the location. And then there is the rib. So that's one part of the rib, and there's the other part. And again, there's only one rib in this initial geometry, and you may want to explore the effect of rib placement as well as changing the number of ribs. So how do we create this geometry? If I go to Workbench, this is a static structural analysis, and if you drag static structural, I gave it a name. I called it initial wing analysis, and then from geometry, I selected edit geometry in Discovery. And if I go back to Discovery, I see, that's what I see. And I need to import the airfoil coordinates. First, let me set the units. So I want metric and meters. And then for grid spacing, I will select 0.1 meters. And then you'll come here to the menu options and say insert. Actually, before that, we want to insert the airfoil geometry from a coordinates file to the XY plane. So I will I'm in the sketch mode, I'll click on the Z axis, and then if I click on V, I see I'll be importing it into the XY plane. And the file that you're given looks something like this. Polyline equals false means that it will create all this as one curve instead of multiple curves. The other thing is, so this is the X coordinate, this is the Y coordinate, and so on for one point along that line. So let's import that. I'll say File, Insert Geometry, download it from the TIPS website, and select the .txt file and say Open. And you see I have the upper surface, I have the upper line, the lower line, and if I zoom in to the trailing edge, I see that the airfoil is not closed, and so I'll do that manually. You can also do that in the coordinates file. So I'll pick the line option, and I will draw a line from like that to close it. And then I will escape out of there. And then if I say zoom, it'll zoom back in. And then I'll go to pull. And I want to select all three. So you may need to, you want to make sure you select the entire curve instead of individual points. So there's one curve, and then I zoom in on the lower side, there's two, and then the trailing edge, I'll zoom in there, and okay, control click. So I should have three curves, and then I will say I'll pull in the plus Z direction, and the span is going to be 15 meters. and then I'll come back to select. So that gives me the wing, the skin of the wing, and we only give it the mid surface. So we'll give it a thickness as an input when we set up the model in Ansys, because we're using shell theory, and in shell theory you only have the mid surfaces rather than the volume. Okay, so next what I want to do is create the rib. So if I go back to this model, I want to create this, the rib in the middle that I was just pointing out, that one for instance. So I'll go back here, and I will, what I'll do is I'll select this plane, and then I'll say move, and I'll move it to the center of the wing. So let's say I'm placing the rib at the center of the wing. And if I drag the arrow, I have to select the arrow close to the end, and then I'll hit spacebar and 7.5. So now my sketch plane is in the middle. So I'll go back to select, and then with the plane selected, if I go into sketch mode, and then I can again hit V to look at it, and I guess Z to zoom in. What I want to do is I need to select this option, project to sketch. So this is actually the intersection of the wing surface with the sketch plane. So let's create a curve by projection. So I'll say project to sketch, and I'll select that. And now if I come here, I will see under sketching plane, sketch 2, I'll see that spline has been projected onto the sketch plane. Similarly, I will zoom in here. Make sure you don't select the point, but rather the line. So you get the spline, and then I will zoom into the trailing edge and select that. And then I'll get a line, then I'll say escape. And now with these three selected, so I can just go in here and control click, I can say fill. And now I have the rib. So if I say Z and then I go into the 3D mode, over here, I will see that I have the rib. I can hide this plane. So select the plane and say hide. So now I have the rib. And for, if you want multiple ribs, all you need to do is select this one rib. And to select that, I can hold down Control and scroll with the middle mouse button. And so then I can select the rib. And then if I go to move and I move it, and let's see if I can move this thing over here. And if I say I want to move it, make a copy, all I'll do is I'll hold down Control and then move it. So Control move copies it, and then I can hit space bar and say 2 meters, and then I'll say select. So you see, it's once you have one rib, creating other ribs is quick, because we are not assuming, we are assuming that the airfoil shape remains constant along the span. Let me just undo that, Control Z, because I want only one rib in this demo. Okay, and then I need to create the spar. So if I go back to this model, so this is one spar, and it's in two parts because of the rib. So let's create that. So what I'll do is I'll create a plane. It's pretty much the same process as for the rib, except the plane is, I have to create a sketch plane. So I'll say plane, and then I want the plane along in the YZ. Actually, let me, maybe I should select the coordinate. Let's see. So I have plane selected. Yeah, so I got it. You might have to try it a couple of times. And then I'll move it depending on where you want the spar to be. And I'll say I'll move it for now by 1.25 meters. And then if I go to select, I see the, my sketch plane is over there. So now I'm going to sketch on that plane. So I'll say sketch, and again V. And you see the, where this is where the skin intersects the sketch plane. So I'll go, again, I'll play the same trick, project to sketch. I'll select that, and then I'll select that. And now under plane, sketch 1, I see the 2 lines, and then I can select the 2 lines. Let's see. Oh, I need it. It's created multiple lines. That's easy to do. I should have hit escape. So I'll just delete. That feels very satisfying. Okay, so I should have only 2 lines, which the upper one, the lower one, and then I can control click and select both and then say fill. And that should create a third surface. So if I go back to, if I say escape, I go back to 3D mode, and I can hide all the planes over here. And I see that now I have my the rib, the spar, and the skin. And you can rename it and so on. And then we need to use shared topology so that edges that are common are not duplicated. So I'll go to prepare, and I'll say share, remind me later, and then click on the tick, and it shows me the edges that are shared. And that looks right to me. So now if I can bring it into mechanical, and it should be one body with multiple sub-bodies. And I'll show what the model looks like in mechanical in the next video. You may need to say, exclude from simulation for the sketching plane. I don't think it's transferred. Sorry, I should say exclude from simulation, and then you should only see the 3 surfaces in mechanical, and save your project. I like to save it from Workbench. I'll say file save and then file archive.